Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Thank you very much for your company. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join the football family. We're absolutely delighted with the support we've got for all our unique video content. Great to be back here on the Wednesday. An unusual face in Alan Ruff on the Wednesday. So obviously the golf's been called off and the tennis match has been cancelled. He's joined by Ryan McGinn, and we also have the Elephant Man with us as well, because your man, you honestly, you're injury prone. You're unbelievable, Scott Allen. You picked up another injury, but you're looking great, by the way. Your skin's looking really good today. Are you happy with your lot, son?
Absolutely, yes. Obviously, to be joined by Ruffy today, pick up pieces for Tam last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why Ruffy's in, because I watched the show from my sick bed and somebody had to go. It was just the short straw. So no Tam this week, so we'll stick mainly to the facts. Lots to talk about. Tynecastle's our destination, because Hearts are getting ready for their Europa Conference match against Omonoia Nicosia. I'm delighted to say joining us now, Kerry Pollock is live there at Tynecastle. Kerry, first and foremost, Neil Critchley, not long in the job, but getting to know that Hearts side more day by day.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not had that much time to work out what his best starting 11 is. But of course, they host Omonoia Nicosia and the Europa Conference League here tomorrow night at Tynecastle. He's very much looking forward to that game, as all managers deliver at the press conferences. They're not looking too much ahead. They're not getting too carried away from that victory over St Mirren at the weekend. And of course, this is a side not to be underestimated. They have fallen from 2nd to 6th in their league table after coming off the back of 2 defeats. But not to mention, of course, they went to Old Trafford not that long ago, and if it wasn't for that Scott McTominay last-minute winner, they would have gotten a share of the points that night. But nonetheless, he says his side are well and able to take on the Cypriot opponents tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracking match. Really looking forward to it. Of course, Hearts did get that confidence-boosting win against Dynamo Minsk. What was the latest news from him, Kerry, regarding his team selection?
Well, no new injury news getting into this game tomorrow night, Peter, coming out of the weekend, which is of course good news for Critchley and his staff. The injury news that has been long-term: Newman Hoff, Gerald Taylor and Utara Oder will be the only obvious ones not available for tomorrow, but no new ones coming out of the weekend that will rule anyone out for tomorrow night's game.
And just finally, he's obviously going to pick a side to try and get him a positive result in this new format of Conference, Europa League, Champions League. He wants a positive result, but has he mentioned, has he got one eye on that big derby match at the weekend?
Well, that was the big question coming into the press conference. Of course, the big game at Easter Road on Sunday afternoon. He said it's not about it's about managing the squad. It's not about resting players. He has to utilise, and of course, as you mentioned, he doesn't know what his best squad is just yet. But if you look at Hearts' schedule coming up, they've got 5 games in 15 days across all competitions that they're involved in. So he will have to rejig his squad in some areas, and of course work out what players are here, what players are available to him, who he thinks works well together. And of course, the new manager means time to impress for every single player in this squad.
Yeah, and just before you go, Kerry, you were involved in the office sweep. You lost out because you thought Ryan McGinn would be the one to fall on the Wednesday show.
What's that? Sorry, you lost me at the end there.
Yeah, we were just saying one person had to go on the Wednesday, and in the sweep here you picked Ryan McGinn to go, but he's still here with us.
Can't believe that.
Well, of course. I mean, me and Tam have been shipped off the Wednesday show now. I'm doing a bit of work, and Tam's, got a day off. Usual for him. Ruffy's in. We've got facts today.
Kerry, it happens to us all. Brilliant to get Kerry from the latest there, live from Tynecastle ahead of that match against Omonoia Nicosia. And again, everybody thinks about the derby, Ruffy, but one game at a time. This is a real chance to build on the confidence boost that win over Minsk gave them.
Yeah, certainly, and the evidence of the weekend there, I thought they were absolutely fantastic. I thought St Mirren were poor, but certainly going into these 2 games coming up on the back of a 4-0 win, it's the best way to go into them.
Okay, that's going to be the Conference League. We will look ahead to the other European matches, of course. Later on, we'll hear from Brendan Rodgers and the Celtic captain, Callum McGregor, because the minute we go off air, I think it's quickly get a cup of tea, get yourself your dinner, and then plant yourself in front of the telly for Atalanta against Celtic. Or if you're a Celtic fan, if you can eat your dinner behind the couch, it might always help because...
We've been waiting for this, haven't we?
Oh,
We've been waiting for this.
Honestly, I cannot wait. I mean, it's just one of the guys was saying when the press conference was going on and Brendan was leathering home his message,
I know.
and she said, he's just speaking to you. But no, listen, if Celtic come out of that result with a positive result, I think, listen, we'll all bow to Brendan for just getting it right. It's as simple as that. Thanks to so many of you for joining us along the way here. Lee Shanley, of course, people from Dublin joining us, and Brian wants to know, Ruffy doing overtime. Quite amazed to see you here on the Wednesday, Ruffy.
No, that obviously we don't know what Tam's doing for day to day. You know, he just throws something out there, then disappears for 2 or 3 days. So, no, I'm sure he'll be back.
Yeah,
Sure he'll be back.
we love our football. If you were a real football enthusiast, you're watching, we'll talk about this in a second actually, because some other breaking news has just come in which will get an immediate reaction. The administrators today were obviously going to speak to more and more of the staff at Inverness Caledonian Thistle, and Duncan Ferguson and his coaching staff gone.
Yeah, it's obviously a terrible situation that they find themselves in, and it tends to be that normally the coaching staff is one of the first ones to go, but I think most importantly you just want the majority of people behind the scenes to keep their job. You know, it's not their fault that the club's gone into administration, and there's no doubt there'll be a lot of people up there that have worked tirelessly behind the scenes, and fingers crossed that they can kind of keep their jobs, and it's just a bad situation for any club to find themselves in.
Yeah, I mean, the former chairman, Alan Savage, has already put about £350,000 in. He has promised to put in around £500,000 to deal with the administration. Then you've just got to hope that once the carcass eventually has been skinned completely, somebody picks it up and thinks, right, let's make correct decisions. I think one of the biggest ones could have been, Scott, that they looked at Inverness and the board at the time made the wrong decision in signing up for these concerts, because that sent them down a road where they'd lost money.
Yeah, I think first and foremost with Ferguson and his staff, it's cost cutting measures. I think they need to clear that out and try and keep the staff there, as Ryan touched on. For me, I spent 3 months up there after my heart condition, just to get back playing under Neil McGinn. It's a great place to play your football in terms of take a place Inverness is. I really enjoyed myself, and the fans do back you if you've got a good team on the pitch. I just think ultimately this is what happens when guys make wrong decisions time after time, years after years. Don't want to obviously go into too much detail, but this is the price you pay for that.
Yeah, how did you like Neil McGinn as a coach?
Really liked him.
Yeah?
Really liked him, yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Sometimes you just... I mean, this is what we're talking about, you know, sometimes if you can get a run and you can get a little bit of momentum, a board that backs you, the structure's right, Ruffy, sometimes you get a chance to actually learn how to become a manager.
Yeah, but I'm actually surprised. But I know the financial side with Duncan obviously wasn't taking any wages, and there was people offering money. You know, there was consortiums up there offering, I think it was 1.2 million to put them back on their feet. So it just remains to be seen. It must be worse than what we actually think, that the club never took that money, because you know, as the boys were saying that when I've never been part of a club that something like that's happened, because the structure of the club, if like people who have been there for ages, like the tea lady, you know, if they start getting sacked, it must be a horrible atmosphere to be in.
Yeah, but some people can offer a 1.5 million, Scott, and their vision is not for the betterment of a club. I'm not saying that that's the case here.
It's hard to know that.
But you've got to, all the facts in the background are, okay, we're offering 1.5 million, but what's the strategy long term? And I think administrators have to be very careful about who they're handing over a club to, although when you look at previous administrations, that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it's interesting where Inverness were at the start of the season when they were wanting to come and do that kind of hybrid system and train at Kelty. Would that have been a better decision in terms of financially? I know a lot of people had their say on it, got to stay in Inverness, but that might have offset some of the money a bit as well, because obviously we haven't had to pay as much money. Guys coming from Glasgow and down the west needing accommodation up there. So I just think it's been a lot of bad decisions over the years has now led to this situation.
We're going to hear from Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor in the show. Give us your thoughts on how you think Celtic will fare. We'll also talk about Rangers. We'll be going to the press conference ahead of Rangers' match against Bucharest. And we'll also talk other Champions League matches coming up tonight as well. If you were sitting there, and I was about to mention, Ryan, you sit there and I don't know if is there a separate room where you're able to, or do you all collectively, sometimes my wife will say, yep, good game tonight, let's sit down and watch it. Or she'll say to me, rubbish game, you get another room, I'm going to watch my favourite programme.
Yeah, I'm a bit I've got a garage set up, so I'll sometimes head into there if there's a good game that I want to watch and have a little bit of peace and quiet. So yeah, I think we were touching about it before the show. Real Madrid last night was one that I really enjoyed, and I think already they're probably favourites to win the Champions League. I thought they were just exceptional.
Yeah, and he looked calm at 2-0 down. Great managers do that, don't they? They kind of would just say, okay, let's calm down and make sure we don't lose another one, and then we'll pick them off.
I think they've just got that sort of Real Madrid power where even I was watching it and they were 2-0 down. At no point did I think, oh, this is an upset. I just thought that they're going to turn as soon as they score one, they'll score 2, 3, 4, and eventually they did. But they're just so good to watch. They're just so exciting, and yeah, they're probably my favourite team to watch at the moment.
Because they're so off the cuff. Just so off the cuff.
Well, are they off the cuff, or are they in a situation where, I mean, let's not forget, they've got some of the world's greatest players, but he seems to be calm on, they all know their job. They were
really poor in the first. I genuinely thought last night when I heard the commentator say they hadn't been beaten at home in the Champions League in 2.5 years, and I went, this, because I thought Dortmund were excellent first half, the midfield and the Mecha, superb for me. I just felt this could be the night, and then at half time I says to my wee boy, whoever scores the next goal wins, and Real did get that goal, and like Ryan says, that big club thing, they just done aura about them, the place, and it erupted, and then Vinny Junior and that started coming into the game. But I watch a lot of Real Madrid. I watch most of their games. They haven't been great this season. I think a big shout for them to win it again this year, but I don't think so. I'm going to go against them this year.
They did it last year, didn't they?
Well, I was at the Champions League final at Wembley. Borussia Dortmund, I mean, the boy Füllkrug, he had a great chance to give them the lead. They had 2 or 3 chances to go ahead in the game, but Real Madrid, as you say, it's almost as if they just start to calm down and think, we'll pick them off at some point.
Well, I mean, when you come up against them, it's the modern game now is a team game. You're not allowed any individuals. You've got to all work together, and that's what they seem to do. They seem to read each other, particularly when they're up against it, and they've got leaders on the park that can turn the games, and that's what they seem to do. Good
line here from Les. He says, why has Ruffy got it in for the tea lady? Is there a story we haven't been told?
Who was the tea lady? Was it St Johnson's? Aggie. St Johnson. Was it St Johnson with Graham Souness?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always somebody in the club that you absolutely cannot dismiss. And to be fair, that and Les goes on to say Peter is married. Les, you'll be getting leathered shortly. But anyway, we like a bit of banter in the show as well. Great game at the Real Madrid one. I was tempted to sneak over to Aston Villa, but then I thought to myself, no, he's peace. You've got to stick with it. But John McGinn did score. Yeah. One of those free kicks where the keeper thinks
someone's going to touch it.
Someone's going to touch it.
Yeah, I had a couple of friends who watched the Villa game, so I was getting updates from them. But they're flying at the moment. I think they're doing really well, and it just shows you how good their manager is in Europe. He just seems to, they've had that step up into the Champions League, and sometimes you see the English teams that finish 4th, they then sort of struggle in the Champions League or struggle in the league, and he's just such a good manager that he just knows how to get performances and results. And I don't think they'll go Real Madrid's level, but I think they'll do well in Europe. Yeah,
good point there from Joseph McGonigal, and we're all fans. Modric, he said, is next level. I think Modric could play well into his 40s, couldn't he? I mean, he's just magnificent.
He'd be my favourite player the last 10 years, quite easily.
Yeah?
Easily.
He is your style of player as well, isn't he?
Lazy.
That's so disrespectful.
He hates that one.
He hates
that one, doesn't he?
I know football in their blood when that's what they say about Luka Modric.
Oh, I know that you hate that one.
The reason why I mention that to you is because of course,
I was
Real
trying to-
Madrid, we watched Liverpool, Real Madrid, my daughter and I, and Modric just sauntered about, and then suddenly when Liverpool are 2-0 up, he gets the ball in the middle of the park and just shakes two of them off as if they weren't there, bursts into life, and then makes the killer pass and Benzema scores.
It's no Lucas Neal.
And you're like, no, exactly.
He always seems to be available. You know, when somebody's in a tight corner and they're looking up to see who, it's him. It's him that comes and takes it, and it's him that makes the run or the gap and finds it all the time and starts from the beginning.
I'll just tell you right now, Ian Noble says John McGinn has been terrible for Scotland for the last 2 years. He should be dropped to the bench. John McGinn hasn't been great for Scotland.
He's been great for Scotland.
Well, exactly, since the Spain game. But he hasn't been great, but we should maybe be expecting more of him because he's such a key player for us. You know?
He's differently though. It's very hard to compare club and country in terms of the.
I don't think you can
especially
drop him.
for
Shouldn't
the
drop
national
him.
team where he's asked to do different things off the ball. When he's playing under the Unai Emery team, they're now controlling a lot of the ball, so he's allowed to get forward and help more. In Scotland, a lot of the games we haven't had enough of the ball to do that, and you know for a fact he'll give you that defensive shift, which is why he'll always play for Steve Clarke when he's fit.
By the way, we've got lots to look forward to because we're going to reflect on great Edinburgh Derby matches. Now, I couldn't think of...
Ruffy, we struggle with it.
Well, I couldn't think of two better
They were good to
guests.
watch.
Oh, Ruffy's seen the best of them. We've had Kerry on from Tynecastle looking ahead to that match against Omonoia Nicosia. Let's not forget Rangers against Steaua Bucharest. Alison McConnell was tracking the Rangers boss today.
Rangers manager Philippe Clement has said he is 200% confident that his side are on the right trajectory. That comes despite the anger that followed Sunday's loss to Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. However, Clement has insisted that in time his long-term plan can come to fruition at Ibrox.
It was all the idea about the contract from the board and also from me to show that I would not leave if something else came along the way. So everybody who did this job or has worked in football knows to make that rebuild and cutting wages and making the club sustainable and investing in young players for now and for the future, that it takes time. You cannot do that in 1, 2, 3 months.
And Clement has also insisted that no club can afford to keep chopping and changing managers if they wish for long-term stability.
It's the only way, but it's also not the only way here. It's been the only way in clubs all over Europe or all over the world. If you change ideas every 3 months, 6 months, or every year, of course there's no consistency in the club. So you need to follow a track, you need to follow one process that everybody keeps on going in the same direction.
Well, what a line from him. I mean, if you want a manager to come out fighting and try and explain the predicament and the discussions he's had with the board, that would suggest that, I mean, I don't think a Europa League match is going to make a blind bit of difference, but a defeat up at Pittodrie against Aberdeen, is it just, well, it's one of those things, I've got a long-term plan here?
Well, only he knows the ins and outs of the conversations, but I think from the outside looking in, it's not good enough. We've been here a few times talking about identity, and even if you're not playing well in the games, do you have that bit of unity where you can go and maybe grind out a 1-0? Rangers don't have that. They don't have it, don't have the quality, maybe separate the games where it's between them and another team. If they lose to Aberdeen, I think you'd be under real pressure.
Do you think that's the case? That's a manager who's given a line there in the first answer that was absolutely resolute in his impression.
Yes, but I also...
I've heard that from managers before,
Yeah,
by the way.
I was just about to say that. It's not easy for managers to say that, but they would have been in the board meeting. That's probably pre-Kilmarnock, thinking that they were going to go to beat Kilmarnock, get a good result, go up to Pittodrie, and then it's all of a sudden they're almost second again. That result at the weekend throws a real spanner in the works, and we spoke about it after the last Celtic and Rangers game, how they had to put in a steady consistency of results and have some good performances. They've kind of done that on and off as such. If you probably, if you've got your Rangers glasses on, then
Malmo result kind of threw the spanner, didn't, because we've seen, there's a performance. And then
go and lose to Kilmarnock, and especially after Celtic and Aberdeen drawing, that should have been, all the Rangers fans would have been going there being like, right, this is it, this can kind of kickstart our season. It's been kicked in the teeth, and that's a manager who fully believes that the board is going to back him, but I think if results don't improve, then like everyone says, he'll be under serious pressure, because you can't lose those types of games.
Is he delusional?
No, everything he said there, the board will buy into. Unfortunately, the supporters won't.
Yeah.
The supporters are the one that will change everything. It's okay, the board saying, we'll hang on in with you for 2 or 3 years and we can see what you're doing. But if you're not winning games and you're not winning big games and a segment of the support turn against you, that's when a board, make the hasty decision, well, we can't upset them. And it seems to be festering in the background every time there's a bad result. Everything's getting thrown out there. So he's only, I would say, 1 or 2 bad results away from the fans completely turning. And when they do that, then the board react.
In my mind, if he loses at Pittodrie, I just see a groundswell of this is not the man for the job. I just see the Rangers fans.
Such a tough game to go up there and win the way Aberdeen are performing at the moment.
It's Rangers. It's Rangers. He's a year into the job, Scott.
I think that's the
There
problem.
you go. That's you're answering your own question.
No. I think it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, because if you get to a situation where suddenly Celtic go 9 points clear, and Aberdeen go 9 points clear,
Dundee United are.
I think they're a point behind, aren't they?
And the thing that I keep emphasising, which I think is so critical, it's a £60 million throw of the dice. They've got to at least be second to try and get qualifiers for the Champions League. That's why it's so critical. You can't just say we're finished third, we're now in the Europa League, that's our level. You can't finish behind Celtic and Aberdeen in this case.
Well, I think already you can see there's going to be a big fight on their hands for second, no question, based on what we've seen, especially how Aberdeen performed away to Celtic and been 2-0 down to them as well, and kind of been resolute and grinding back into the game and defending, could have sneaked at the end as well. So this game's huge for Rangers, and at this current moment you would have to say Aberdeen are favourites.
Yeah, Aberdeen are favourites to go in.
To beat Rangers next week.
And if they beat them?
The decisions will have to be made, no question.
Yeah, you think you'll stay? Do you think you'll be in a job?
I think if they lose, because we can talk about the things behind the scene and transfer windows and clear-outs, performance and what you're getting out of the players you've got, to me, he's not getting anything out of the players you've got. I think there's more in there, and I don't think he's the man that's doing that at the moment.
Do you think he'll win the job on the Monday?
I think they'll take a bit of time, but I think if
That's my seat he's sitting in.
Do you know what? Do you know what I'm trying to do? As we move on, because obviously it's easy having Ryan here.
Yeah.
Because Ryan's an Aussie who, every now and then, all I need to do is punch him, and then he reverts back to his upbringing, and then he starts to fight.
Yeah.
He'll come out with a good line. Ruffy is the housewife's favourite.
Yeah.
So he's always going to be liked no matter what. Me, I know people who hate me even before the show starts, right? But you're in a difficult position, and this is why I know you're in a difficult position, because you're on BBC commentary, so obviously, huge crowds are not your thing. And then the next part of it you're on Clyde.
Oh, here we go again.
You're on Clyde, and it's you're a 75-year-old man who's absolutely battering everybody out of the park, and you're afraid to have an opinion in case he slaughters you. So what we try and do is we try and get something out of you, try and get a wee bit of bite out of you.
I think he's going on the Monday, not necessarily the Monday. I think
Tuesday.
What, the Tuesday?
that's what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
The Tuesday, the Wednesday.
Your point was we don't need 2.5 minutes to drag it out of you. By the way, this is the God's honest truth, right?
I think Aberdeen are favourites. I think if Philippe Clement loses that game because he's not getting the most out of his team, which we've seen all season, then yes, he's under real pressure, and part of me thinks he could be out of a job on the Monday.
Right. Now, I'll give you a classic, right, and you'll back me up in this. when you joined Super Scoreboard, when you joined the Super Scoreboard team, I'm just giving you an insight into the old mindset. So I would join it, and you had Keevins, and you had Jerry McNee, and you had Davy Provan, and you had Mark Guidi, and you had Andy Walker, and you had Fraser Wishart, and you had Derek Johnston, the legend there is, who's my favourite, which one guy on here clearly doesn't like the fact that I like Derek. But they were all there. So if you suddenly went on a Maisie, battered, if you couldn't give them an opinion within the first 12 seconds, battered. So he wouldn't have lasted. You wouldn't have lasted until the break.
Do I think he'll get the sack if he don't win at Aberdeen? Yes.
Wow.
Well, finally,
Cool.
finally, we're 25
I'm trying to give a bit of depth to the reasons why he might and he might not.
Yeah.
If
You know what that
just
is?
a simple answer to it, then yes.
Know your audience, or know your players.
That's fine.
There's no point in firing it into Ryan and hope his first touch is going to get it immediately under control.
Going to the channel.
Exactly.
Very hard to educate in this country.
Oh, it's really, and we're so lucky to have you. Ryan, it's a situation where I think, from my own point of view, I look at it and I say to myself, there are a group of Rangers fans who are smart, who absolutely will look at a game and they're not fooled by managers' lines. They've seen it all before. Mm-hmm. They have paid good money consistently. They want to see a change. They want to see changes at boardroom level. They want to see investment, because the biggest investors consistently are the fans.
Yep.
You know, they're buying into it. So they want to see a team on the park, and they're not fooled. They're looking and seeing, we're a year into it. Can I see a pattern? Can I see the DNA of something that looks as if it's coming together and it's a style? And I don't think they're seeing that. And when I was watching the Rangers fans on Sunday, I'm looking at it and there was just a general apathy. It was almost as if they were aware that the impending doom was coming with a goal.
I think all football fans of any club want something to hold on to, or something to get them to go back, whether that be a player, whether that be a manager, a style of play, anything. I don't think Rangers have any of that. I don't think they have somebody that they can just be like, someone, a Rangers, a small boy will be like, I want to go and watch so-and-so. And over the years, Rangers have always had somebody that they would at least be like, well, Chris Boyd's on it, they were going to get a goal. Barry Ferguson will control the game. They always had someone that they could almost pin their hat on and say that's going to get them some type of result.
A crowd pleaser.
Well, who does
No,
a kid,
but
what Rangers fan kid goes into a shop now? I would love to know what player they're asking for in the back of the top. Young Rangers fans, who would be the guy that sticks out?
Whereas Celtic, you've got you always know that McGregor's going to do it, or you always know that Kyogo's going to score. They've got players that loads of kids will be going there, and they would have, like you said,
6 or 7 players to pick from.
Yeah.
Rangers don't even have one person to sort of cling on to.
Hold on, that's Scott's taxi. I just thought, forget 25 minutes out of him, we'll be flying. There's, what did you...
I thought the last one they had, to a certain extent, was Ryan Kent. On his game, he was off your seats if he was playing well, but he wasn't consistent enough. And we all were led to believe when he came up here, I think he was 7 million, he was going to be a 15 or a 16 million player, and that never materialised. And I said that after the Kilmarnock game, we're talking about Rangers not having a structure to the team, and I said, if you look at Kilmarnock, they've got the structure.
Yep.
They've got the 3 at the back, they've got the 2 in the middle, they've got the 2 wide boys, and they've got the 2 up front. They know exactly what's going to happen when that game starts. Rangers just seem to be back 4, somebody floating about here and not doing the team thing.
It's like McInnes's DNA, isn't it? Even his successful Aberdeen teams was 3 big monsters at the back, 2 sort of busy guys in the midfield, always played with 2 wingers, big powerhouse up front, get the balls into the box. That's how Derek McInnes's teams consistently are always that.
Yeah.
He has something to go off. Whereas I think we're a year in and we're still unsure of what Rangers are trying to play, what they're trying to do. Do they control games? If they do control games, are they better away from home? Are they better at home? Just so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, I think the Rangers board certainly will be looking at it and thinking if he loses on Sunday, I think it's even more difficult for them because they've got so much turmoil that they're trying to work out in the background at a boardroom level and saying, right, how do we get the structure of a CEO in place and various other key positions, at boardroom level, and then suddenly you have to sit down and think, by the way, they're battering the doors down now. Do we sack the manager? And we've just given him this deal. I think, if anything, it'd be a brave boardroom to come out and just basically give him the full verbal 100% backing if they lost to Aberdeen.
You're taking the European game out of the equation. They've got to win that as well.
I don't think it's as important to them.
I think if you lose that one and you lose the Aberdeen one, then it gets hysterical. The fans will be. I mean, they're coming out with banners before games. The banners are there before the actual game starts. And the guys have played as well. If you're coming out the dressing room, you're running into your goal, and you see that your fans aren't behind you, it's not a great start of the game, is it? Because right away you're.
You know, as a player, when you just know yourself.
Yeah, well, listen, we're about to find out exactly what it's all about. They're going to take on Steaua Bucharest, who are at this moment fourth in their league. They've had 5 consecutive wins and unbeaten in 9. And the only saving grace on this one, I think, is, Ruffy, that Rangers have only lost 2 of their last 17 home matches.
Yeah, for some reason I think Rangers look more comfortable against European opposition. I don't know if it's the way the Europeans play. They give you a lot of possession of the ball. They're quite happy having it at the back, having it midfield, and then waiting till you get up into the last third of the park. But the style of play seems to suit some of the Rangers players, but the pressure is on now, and for me, with Rangers, when the pressure's on, you've got to look at what players in that Rangers team are going to turn up, and that's what the supporters will be looking for.
Yeah. Now, I say they're fourth in this overall Europa League. You know it's kind of crazy situation. As you get wins, you can suddenly elevate yourself into definitely qualified playoffs, and then that bottom section. Rangers are 17th in that. Steaua Bucharest are 5th in their own Romanian league, but this overall Europa League, because it's under this new format, the more wins you get, the higher up you go in the table, until eventually you'll know exactly your own fate by the time you get to the end of it. I have a sneaky feeling that this one could be a draw.
I think they'll win. I think just, again, we're talking about the fans. I think the fans will get them over the line in that type of European game. But I think with the fixtures coming up, if they want to progress and get into sort of qualified or even through the playoffs, they need to win this game because they've got some tricky games coming up.
Win for Rangers?
So I'm going for a win, yeah.
I think it's a game a year ago. You're backing Rangers all the way, considering how well we've done in Europe. For me, I think a draw.
I think somebody will come up with the goods, and I think they'll narrowly win it, possibly 1-0.
Okay, give us your thoughts on that, how you see it going. Now, because obviously we kind of held off on letting you talk about Celtic, because the teams are out already for this one, because it's a 5:45 kick-off for this one. So it's Schmeichel in goal, Alistair Johnson, Trusty, Scales and Vaya in the back four. Then it's Engels, McGregor and Hatate, Kuhn, Ida and Maeda. So there's no Kyogo starting up front in this one. So that's the way the team looks. And then, of course, it's a 3-4-1-2 for Atalanta. And remember, although they still retain quite a number of the players that won the Europa League, Gasparini has tweaked it here and there, and clearly they'll be expecting a win against Celtic. I don't know about you, but I am not looking forward to it. I just feel as if this is going to be another scary night. And well, just in case you think I'm making it all up, this is Brendan Rodgers.
I know it's coming.
This is Brendan Rodgers in the interview ahead of this game.
If it's a pragmatic coach, it's a different coach. I'm a different person, and that's not to say that we don't go into the game and go out and just be all out attack, all out front foot. That's not how it is. But if a coach's DNA is to sit back and be that, then that's not me, and it won't be. It won't be that. It's as simple as that. My idea is to have an attacking philosophy, and which is about defending and defending well.
Okay, he's not going to change. It was almost Leonardo DiCaprio there. I was just waiting on him dropping the mic and then the whole crowd going mental. He's not going to change.
No, listen, we had this debate a few weeks ago. Me and Tam especially said that we would expect him not to change as such, but I think with Ida starting, I think that does change it, more of a focal point. And I think we will see differences in terms of how they press. I think they press far too high against Dortmund from the start of the game. I think they might drop off 20 yards and ask them to maybe play through them from there. So he's not going to change. It's just how he is, I think. And I like that, to be honest. If I was a Celtic fan, that was my manager, I quite like that. I know you're looking at it from a different side. You'd like to be a bit more pragmatic, as they say, but for me, he knows how he wants his teams to play, and he might tweak it, and it's not going to be a doing like the last time.
It's not. Am I losing the will to live here on this? It's not me looking for him to be pragmatic. I'm looking for him to be
Get a result.
one of the. I'm looking for. There's levels of everything. Mm-hmm. So when you consider what we have as coaches in Scotland, there are coaches that just want to earn a living. They're trying to learn. They're trying to make themselves better. Then you have good coaches. Yep. Then you have great coaches. And I'm looking and I'm saying, he's got the potential to do something special, because I think he's a good coach. And I'd like to see him become a great coach. But it's, as somebody's just said on this feed here, Joseph said, it's the definition of insanity. You just want him to... You don't want him to... We don't want him to lose his principles. We want him to change the strategy to win the game, surely.
What I would say is, I think the lineup shows that he's going to have a slightly different approach to the game.
Yeah.
Because Aida won't press as well as Kyogo will. He won't be able to do it as much as Kyogo will. So I think, like what Scotty said, he'll be the sort of vocal point, and it will give them not an out ball as such, but it will give them a target to, if Atalanta are pressing, they can lob it up to him or play a longer pass up to him, and then have players around him to feed off it.
Flick-ons for Maeda.
With them running in behind. So I think that's going to be his approach. But he obviously believes the way that he plays. He's similar to Ange in terms of they feel the best way for them to get success is through this process, and they're just going to keep doing that because that's going to bring them more success than just playing a back six and hoping for the best and hoping to get them on the counter.
John Kerr, who's watching the programme, says Brendan Rodgers didn't change in his last spell either. I take John's point, which is where we have been discussing. He didn't change.
What the games against Man City?
When he comes back, what was the draw? It was a great game. They lost 3 goals at home. It was a great game. They lost 3 goals. And he won't, if he's not going to change, I'll tell you what the problem is, and I'll look it up for you, but there's a vast difference between the back line that he had at his disposal against Manchester City and the one he has tonight, which is a young, inexperienced 20-year-old, a left centre-half in John Scales, who, Liam Scales, I wish it was John Scales, the big guy for Liverpool, Liam Scales, who, for me, is an ever-improving defender, but he's not Champions League level, and Trusty, who's a Sheffield United player trying to get used to becoming a Celtic player. He's in big trouble with that back line. 3 out of the 4 for me fill me with fear.
Champions League level skills in the first night of the competition was superb.
Got man of the match.
Yeah.
Peter.
Was Cameron Vickers beside him?
Carter Vickers, I was. Well, listen, we know how big a loss he is.
He's a miss. I mean, it was evident in Aberdeen on Saturday. Ryan was saying they play a press. They're up. If you watch most of the Celtic games, the two centre-halves are on the halfway line.
Yeah.
Because everybody's forward. You know, I thought in the last game, they were too far forward, you know, and there was a massive gap. I think the biggest problem is the five, the two wide men and the three in the middle, they're not defenders. They're all attackers.
Yeah.
There's none of them tackle. There's no somebody who's going to, you know, go and enforce himself on anybody. They all want to go forward. So all I'm saying is I think the back four just need protection. When they've no in possession of the ball, they need to protect the back four.
I'd like to see a more defensive two.
You can still flip that when the free though. You can still go for having one with a two, two with a one.
I don't think they've got that type of player. If they do, it would be a situation where you have to say to an Engels, listen, you need to sit with McGregor. You just need to sit and let Hatate bomb on. And if he bombs on, great, all well and good. And it suddenly becomes, a 4-2-1, and then the three wide boys. But the minute they lose the ball, you've got two people who are still in the half, who are protecting Scales and Trusty. You must have those two players, because what happens, and you guys know it better than anyone, when they get the ball, it's not a slow kick. It's a quick bish bash bosh and they're in your half, and the next minute you're in trouble. And the goals against Dortmund, at one point it's like 4-on-3, it's like 4-on-2, it's like, my God, this is going to be 10, you know. So that's, I do hope he changes. I have not, if Celtic come out of this game with a positive result, I'll be on Friday with Ruffy, I'll be giving it, Brendan, brilliant, got your tactics spot on, because I think that's what he's brought back for.
What do you think tonight then?
I've got 4-0 Atalanta.
And what about full time?
It's funny how everybody's opinions are different and how you see football. I completely back what he's saying in terms of how his principles and how he sees the game. I think you've got to respect that. I know it's dead easy to say go and sit back and defend and lose 4-0, whereas me as a player, I'd rather my manager believing in us that we can go out and hurt the opposition.
The players they've got should be able to keep the ball.
That's my opinion.
It's not a crime. It's not a crime for a manager to turn around and say we've got great creative players, but when we lose the ball, your role here, you two guys, is to protect a weak and inexperienced back four. It's not a crime to do that. The principles can still be the same, but you can mix them up. You can mix them up. I'm talking about the greatest manager that's ever lived in Carlo Ancelotti. But he got battered by Man City. He changed his mindset and said, listen, I know we've got 4 or 5 of the greatest players in the world. Let's sit in against Man City and we'll pick them off.
But seeing the game last night, Real Madrid, there was so many overload on attacks in that game for both teams, for Real Madrid and for Dortmund, where it was 4v3 in that game. And it's ended up to individual defending. Both teams had chances to break on, outnumbered in the defensive area.
That's your point. The individual defending is probably Celtic's biggest weakness.
By far. See, the weekend, this is the difference. It's one of the things that you had as a great quality. If you'd been constantly fit, you would have been a brilliant player for a top-end Premier League side. And here's the thing that
Scottish Premier League.
Yeah. Here's the thing that happened in the game against Aberdeen, which a lot of people looked and said, oh, great goal by Sockler. The ball that opened that whole game out wasn't McGrath's, it was Nielsen's. Because Nielsen had looked, he knew the ball was coming to him, but what he did, as all great midfielders do, he had his head up, he had a quick look to see what was ahead of him, and when the ball came to him, he played it first time and took 2 Celtic players out. That allows McGrath to suddenly run onto the ball, and his vision is that way. And as he opens up his vision, he says, there's Scales, and Sockler's making the run off him. And he plays the sweetest pass you could ever wish for. Yep. He doesn't even have to check his run. But the only way that happens is if a half-decent midfielder in Nielsen, who also likes to bomb on but knows when to bomb back the way, played the ball through to McGrath to allow that pass. And in the back of Celtic is where you get them. Centre of defence. That's where they're weak.
Nobody's asking them to sit in. Just defend when you've not got the ball. Just have an organisation. And unfortunately for Celtic, it's no part and parcel of their game, because in the whole season, in our game, how many times do they have to sit in against anybody? Never.
Yeah.
Never. So it's no part and parcel of their makeup.
Yeah. Well,
The players that he signed are all attacking players to go forward. He's not got anybody defensively in this kind of game. So he's just going to stick with what he's got and hope that the guys that have got in the forward positions can hurt, and hope they've got a poor defence.
Brilliantly summed up. To become a great manager, learn how to win big games, learn how to punch above your weight, learn how to get a victory when the odds are stacked against you. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a fair comment.
And even with your principles, stick to them. But I buy into what you're saying, Scott. I totally get it. I love the fact that he embraces the Celtic ethos of attack. But, you know, even the great Celtic manager, the greatest Celtic manager, automatically thought to himself, this is a game where I know I need to defend because I know the opposition.
Yeah.
You know, and he did it in the
Maybe
European
the
Cup run.
format changes
Didn't
it.
like it, but he did it.
The format changes.
Format changes it a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be interesting if it was a playoff. I think we spoke about this last time. If this
Yeah.
was a playoff game and this is the first leg away from
Oh,
home,
it's 2 legs, yeah.
you'd be if you're a Celtic fan, you'd be like, oh, that's great, Brendan, thanks for that. But let's get something to bring back to Celtic Park. Whereas I feel like he's a bit like, we'll win our home games and we'll be okay, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, Callum McGregor summed it up. The Celtic captain is all about performing on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the challenge for the group is to stand up in those moments and control the game without the ball as well as controlling the game with the ball. So when you get to this level, you need to be really good in both aspects of the game to get points at this level. And like I said, we do a lot of talking, but we have to do our talking on the pitch and be together and be resolute. And then when we get the ball, we know we can cause them problems as well.
Just in case you haven't heard, that team, a couple of changes to the Celtic team. It's Simpson, Craig and Gemmell, Murdoch, McNeil and Clark. It's...
The Hamilton kit man again.
Stanley Cunning. Ida's up front instead of Kyogo. So Schmeichel, Johnson, Trusty, Scales, Via, Engels, McGregor, Hatate, Kuhn, Ida and Maeda. There's your team. I've gone 4-0. You think?
Similar, yeah.
4-0.
3. I'll go 3.
3.
We'll say 2-1.
2-1.
Atalanta.
Okay.
2-0 at Atalanta.
Okay. We shall see. Give us your opinion on it. It would be an unbelievable result if they can beat last year's Europa League winners. Just on that, tonight, you'll watch that game. If you were picking another game, there's one that's screaming out at me that I'm thinking, I'm definitely going to settle down and watch Leipzig versus Liverpool. Are you Barcelona, Bayern Munich?
Yeah, I'll be Barcelona, Bayern Munich.
Yeah, Ryan?
Yeah, that's the one that, if Celtic wasn't playing, that's the one. Well,
Celtic's
it'll be a
got
different.
56.
Yeah, I was gonna say. That's the one that,
In the
I'll
garage?
be watching in the garage.
Yeah, Ruffy?
Be watching the two strikers on show and see how it does each other.
Outdoes
Kane.
each other. Kane
And
and Lewandowski. I read an interesting article last week that the Bayern players love him because he's such a team player. He brings people into the game. He makes passes for them. He is such an infectious character that they absolutely love him. Whereas Lewandowski had more of that kind of a selfish streak about him.
You just see that in the way that they play. I think Harry Kane's got very good at, in recent years, of dropping into that 10 and almost being a number 10, and then gets himself in the box. And over there, especially, I think the amount of goals he scored and assists, there's no wonder that they love him. He's just turned into a proper world-class player.
Yeah. Who do you see winning it?
I fancy Bayern.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Barca after seeing Bayern at Villa Park, and El Clasico coming this weekend, isn't it? As well?
Yeah, I'm going to go Barcelona.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. I'll go with you. I'll go Bayern. Yep. Just before we, quite a lot of people. Thank you to each and every one of you. Lots of the messages. We try and read out as many as we possibly can. We also indulge you to just hit that subscribe button and join the football family. And if you download the app, you'll get all the breaking news at your fingertips. Big game at the weekend. Thoroughly looking forward to it because you guys have sampled it. I picked out some of the best Edinburgh derbies from recent history, and one just screams out at me.
Which one's that?
And the funny thing is, somebody handed over to us, and I had never planned this, honestly. Somebody handed over to us a huge board from the official boards that they put up at Hampden.
Oh.
And we got one, and James McPake came into the studio and he signed it. And I remember thinking about 2 or 3 years ago, I've got that board somewhere, I must get Ryan McGinn to sign it. Then you bolted to some club far away, and I thought, I'm never going to get him to sign it, but I think we should bring it out, Ruffy, and give it away as a prize.
Yeah, it'd be great.
When Tam's on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure he's here when we hand it out.
I'll definitely get Tam in for it, because is that your favourite Edinburgh derby of all time, 5-1?
Yeah, it has to be. I don't think it will ever be repeated. I think if it is, then there's never going to be a scoreline like that again. It's just such a good game to be involved in and played a part in, and one that I constantly get reminded about. Yeah,
do you think the one thing that was really in your favour was the fact that maybe Pat Fenelon had too many lone players, they didn't get what it was about?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think people forget they also had Griffiths and O'Connor, who that season, I think they'd scored maybe 30 goals between them. So I remember going into that game being a little bit worried about, like you've all been involved in games where you're sort of the better team and you're battering them, but you don't score, and then Griffiths puts one in the top corner and you end up losing 1-0. So as much as it was, I think we'd beaten them that season. I think it was 3 or 4 games that we'd played in the league. We'd beaten them every single one, which we hadn't done before. So we were quietly confident, but it was just, nobody knew. It was cup final. There was the whole hoodoo about Hibs have never won it. If they were to beat us in that game, it would have been totally different. We would have been black marked and never been allowed back in Tynecastle. So there's a lot of pressure on both sides, but I felt like not only did we have the better players, we had more players that knew what it meant and sort of the rewards of if you had gone and won it.
What was it like to score? Did you know how to celebrate?
Well, clearly not, if you've seen the clip. But it was just, it was just crazy. It was one of those moments that is just, if someone had asked me straight after the game, what did you do? I couldn't have told them what I'd done. It was just, I think because it was half-time was a bit nervy because McPake had just scored. It was 2-1. Like I said before, as well as we played, we thought, we maybe let Hibs back in there, and they get man sent off, penalty, 3-1, and then I score near enough straight afterwards, and I'm thinking 4-1, down to 10 men, going to get pretty drunk tonight. So that was yes, that was
What minute did you start having what you doing tonight?
As soon as I was waiting for kickoff. I think it was kickoff, and then I think O'Connor shoots from halfway line. I think from kickoff he just shoots and it goes out for a throw, and I just remember thinking that's them, they're gone. Yeah, they've completely lost their head. And
when it went 5-1, from my perspective, because obviously I know a lot of my Jambo mates, they're just thinking, make it 6, make it 7, make it 8. Just absolutely hammer them.
That's probably the one thing I constantly get asked about is why did you not score more? Like we could have just, we just stopped at 5. Obviously, we wanted to score more, but it was just one of those ones that just being a little bit greedy, I think, looking back on it. But who's to say? I think Suso's McPake clears one off the line in the first half, which would have made it 3-0. If that goes in, then who knows? But I'm just pretty happy to be.
Is this why you brought me in today?
Yeah, to listen to him.
Yeah,
well, listen.
Tell me about your one. Tell me about your win.
Tell me about.
That's it. Finished.
Tell me about the 6. It's painful, Ruffy, though, isn't it?
It is painful if you're living in the city and you know the history between the two clubs, and the guys will know when you play in the games. It's be all and end all. That for the supporters. We had a horrendous run, 16 games, 16 derbies, lost 9 and drew the rest of that. I still have nightmares. At Tynecastle. Tynecastle, it was nothing each. We thought this was the time, it was nothing each. And in the last minute of the game, I think one of our centre-half slipped, I can't remember who it was, and the ball dropped to wee Robbo. And I still to this day remember him laughing as he ran round me. To put it in the back of the net. It's a sad wee man.
27 Derby goals. I mean, he absolutely, he loved it, that Derby match. But, I mean, I remember being in the press box at yours. It was a kind of a tousy game. Yeah. And if my memory serves me correct, the Hibs side wasn't that great at the time. It wasn't firing on all cylinders, but they just seemed to get it right that day.
No, we were on a bit of a run.
Were you? Are you sure?
Yeah. Under Neil Lennon.
Yeah. There was a spell with Hibs where they won a couple of.
Yeah.
But your goal was a peach.
Yeah, obviously I felt my left on the volley, just slow motion into the corner. First time I've done a knee slide ever. Probably the last time I've ever done it.
Is that right? Knowing your luck, by I'm surprised you didn't break your
knee. But I got a good picture on the Scotsman the next day.
Is that right?
Yep.
Do you get a copy of it?
No, I've not actually, no. I just remember the picture because I had my hands wide open, but that was a big one for us. I remember, obviously, the bit of drama between Lenny and Craig Levine before it, and the previous one, I'm sure.
Natural order.
Yeah. Big sign, get unfurled after we went 2-0 up. And he was proper buzzing with that one.
Yeah. And, I mean, from your own point of view, did you keep the strip?
Yeah, I've still got the strip. Won at Tynecastle as well a few times as well, just to put that in there as well. So, aye, I've had a few good derby moments and some bad ones. Oztuck, do you remember that strike?
Yeah.
Last minute.
Oh yeah, that was an absolute raker, wasn't it?
And Aaron Hickey as well, Easter Road, and he scored a screamer near the end as well.
Yeah, it's. Do you just stay in at night after it?
I didn't stay in. We won on Boxing Day at Tynecastle, 2-0, Martin Boyle scored. I went out that night, to be fair. It was Boxing Day, it was a great night, to be fair.
Yeah. Ruffy, you were able to overcome the sadness and go out.
It wouldn't matter who I get beat with on a Saturday, I was not going out anywhere on the weekend. It's just the way you're brought up, you can't celebrate getting beat.
Yeah. Did you ruin it for your family? Were you a pain in the back end? Some people say footballers are, you're emotional about the whole thing.
No, just to switch off and just forget about it.
Yeah, okay. Before we go, Hibs against Hearts, who wins?
Hibs 2-1.
Right, so the manager gets a chance to crack on and,
I hope so,
build.
Yeah.
2-1, okay. Ryan?
Hearts will win, but I don't know what the score will be. 2-1.
2-1 to Hearts.
Or 2-0. Go 2-0.
2-0 to Hearts. Scott?
I'm going to go 3-2 Hibs.
Yeah?
3-2 Hibs, yeah.
Just going toe-to-toe with them.
Toe-to-toe,
Go
yeah.
for it. Attack.
Come on, Dave.
Yeah, come on, Dave. Do you know what this reminds me of? Or three of my mates.
I didn't want to go on a mazy there, do you know what I mean? So I'm just keeping it short.
You should not. I'm quite happy with that. It reminds me of when the Scotland fans, we went to Scotland fans to the World Cup in Italy in 1990, and Scotland were playing Sweden and they'd lost to Costa Rica, Ruffy. And then the Tartan Army fans were there out in force. They're playing Sweden and Scotland have got the ball, and all the Tartan Army go, attack, 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 attack. Right, the whole place, everybody's bouncing, right?
They've done that at the Euros.
Absolutely. And then they gave the ball away and everybody went, defend, defend, defend. And that is possibly the story of tonight's game between Atalanta and Celtic. Anyway, on that, I'm going to drop the bombshell. I think it's a must-win game for Hibs. He's got to win. I fear that a lot of people will be calling for his head. I've maintained right through it he should be allowed the time to build himself as a manager. But I fear they'll be calling for his head if he doesn't win. And I think Hearts are going to win 2-1.
Yeah.
So
The same again.
it's a tough one. There's lots to talk about. I think we're going to have one of our fans in here on
Friday. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Kenny's flying in from LA.
Is he?
For the big Aberdeen Rangers match. He's looking forward to that, and obviously thinks they're going to make it to the League Cup final as well. So he's coming in from LA for a bumper month, Ruffy.
Yeah, and he's coming on at the weekend, and I'm sure they have a lot to say.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I see you're looking forward to it. You just haven't told your face yet. So we're looking forward to it, honestly, Kenny. What a day. An action-packed hour. We obviously apologise to each and every one of you for the 7 minutes that we had to waste on the programme trying to get Scott to have an opinion. But that's what happens when you go on those other stations and you start getting to Sleepy Hollow, Ruffy, and you're getting browbeaten by other pundits. And then he comes here and we give him back his edge.
Eventually we got there.
Yeah, we got there in the end. Anyway, let's see if there's
a depth, Peter.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks to Ryan McGowan, to Ruffy and Aristotle. We'll be back with you next week on the Wednesday Football Show. Join us if you can for the journos, because Barry Anderson, the Evening News Journal, is our special guest, along with Alison McConnell, to talk all things football and other sport in this programme. I hope you enjoy that, and then we'll be back on Friday as well. There's lots of content on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for listening and watching.